Former Cowboy quarterbacks Garett Rangel and Maealiuaki Smith have both found new homes. The Cowboys did bring in a transfer quarterback to participate in what is seemingly still a battle in Stillwater, Oklahoma.
You are Locked On Oklahoma State, your daily podcast on the Oklahoma State Cowboys, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Howdy, y'all, and hello, all. Welcome back to Locked On Oklahoma State, your daily stop for all things Cowboy and Cowgirl related. My name is Cody Stovall. I want to thank you kindly for stopping by to make this your first listen. We're available on all of your podcasting platforms, visually as well on YouTube. Find me personally on X at Oldeo State. Today, we're partially brought to you by Monarch Money. Take control of your finances with Monarch Money. Use the code LOCKEDONCollege, all one word, at monarchmoney.com to save yourself 50% off your entire first year. Speaking of managing money, some guys leave for playing purposes. Some guys leave for schematic purposes. Some guys do, in fact, leave for NIL purposes. Hopefully, both Maealiuaki Smith and Garret Rangel had some decent NIL incentives built into this, because I think a lot of us would have agreed that both of these young men could have gone to a Tulsa, North Texas, Texas State style of school and started literally day one immediately because of the production they had at the Power 4 level, at least to some degree, made the most amount of sense. However, both of these young men have decided to bet on themselves. With Garret Rangel staying in the orange, because he does have a lot of affinity for it, it's going to be a Virginia Tech Hokie orange. And of course, Maealiuaki Smith is going to follow the Spencer Sanders train over to Ole Miss. I think all of us can agree that it'll be nice to see both of those young men absolutely take off. But we do have to deal with the fact, or Garrett has to deal with the fact, that the Hokies do have a returning quarterback, a former Baylor Bear at that. I do think that Kyron Drones is pretty good, and it's going to be difficult for Garret Rangel to kind of climb in there and take that job immediately. But if he gets this medical year back, he's going to have 3 years of eligibility remaining. And I think the Hokies are getting somebody who's going to be potentially more loyal to them than they might ever be to him. And with Maealiuaki Smith, I think a lot of us anticipated he would square into this mix of the battle this spring. But unfortunately, whatever Garret Rangel and Maealiuaki Smith both did this spring is somewhat inconsequential for the Oklahoma State coaching staff, which clearly believes that the upside of the upside of Zane Flores may be better than the potential of a 7-8 win season by Garret Rangel. Do I think Garrett could win more games than that? I do. But at the same point in time, whenever you have a 3-win season and you have to rebuild the entire staff, and you have Banks Bowen dad coming in to be the quarterback coach for Doug Meacham's offense, Banks Bowen threw for 4,100 yards in high school. He also rushed for another 2,100 yards in high school, a legitimate 3-star prospect that went to Tulsa because his dad was going to be coaching there. And now he takes his talents to Stillwater, Oklahoma. So I don't think this is your traditional run-of-the-mill, oh, my dad's going to be the coach. I think Banks Bowen would have squared firmly into the mix at Tulsa this upcoming season. But nonetheless, you have to have a depth piece for what this Cowboy quarterback battle is going to continue to look like. Giving Garret Rangel a bunch of QB1 snaps obviously wasn't all that imperative at the end of the day. At the end of the day, they went with the upside. And we all know that Hauss Hejny does have track speed. He can run up and down the field with a lot of the cornerbacks and wide receivers in all of college football, not just the Big 12. And now we're going to be able to see that on display. But there's still a battle here, because it appears as though that Hauss Hejny is going to sew up QB2 no matter what, because he's going to have some packages built in. Could he still kind of grab the reins and take control of this thing? Perhaps. But evidently, again, that upside that Zane Flores provides, the Oklahoma State coaching staff felt a little bit more confident in that than having what they potentially viewed as a game manager. So could Garret Rangel win Oklahoma State 7, 8, 9 games this year? Very, very possible. They view it as maybe Zane Flores, maybe Hauss Hejny do offer a little bit more. They give us the ability to kind of take the top off and schematically give defenses a bunch of fits. We could even use a 2-quarterback system. And I know that the common consensus generally is if you have 2 quarterbacks, you have 0 quarterbacks. I don't agree with that. I love what Sean Gleason was doing with 3 quarterbacks at Princeton. I thought he was going to be able to bring that over to Stillwater. For whatever reason, that did not happen. And since then, we haven't really had the ability to use a multiple quarterback system. You have to go back to the J.W. Walsh, Wes Lunt, Clint Shelf days before you can have this conversation. And even then, it wasn't exactly by design. Sometimes it was with the hot hand. Sometimes it was because of injury. So those gentlemen, Clint Shelf, J.W. Walsh, they seemingly went back and forth for a multitude of reasons. This could be a little bit different because this could be used as a weapon. Whenever you have the speed of Hauss Hejny and the arm of Hauss Hejny, it's going to be difficult not to try to utilize that. So we knew going into the spring that there was likely going to be some packages for Hauss Hejny. We knew that he had some familiarity with Doug Meacham, obviously coming from TCU. We knew that in the recruiting trail, Kevin Johns made one of the biggest impacts on his life. So there was going to be enough opportunities for him. But evidently, it didn't appear as though he securely grabbed the spring job. And both quarterbacks, Hauss Hejny and Garret Rangel, they allowed Zane Flores to kind of have big-time moments that gave the coaches a little bit of pause. And with that being said, I think that's pretty exciting. Could it kind of curtail some of the expectations to some degree? Yes, because when you give a bunch of snaps to guys like Justin Kirkland and Garret Rangel, you're taking away snaps from some of the dudes that could have benefited majorly by getting those snaps in the spring. So I think from a developmental roster depth chart standpoint, the spring, didn't exactly get the most out of it because of the amount of snaps that we gave to dudes that were ultimately going to leave anyways, or we gave snaps to dudes that we knew weren't really going to fit into the system anyways. From that angle, it is going to be a little bit more time, in my opinion, for Oklahoma State to narrow everything down. But nonetheless, when you have a 6'3", 215-pound quarterback that runs a 4.5 40, and you have a quarterback that runs a sub 4.4 40, it's going to be very intriguing. And the prototypical body that Zane Flores has, mixed in with the athletic ability of Hauss Hejny, could make this offense much more fun again. I think that is the objective here. And then we obviously have gone out and got a couple more tight ends from BYU and Utah State. To me, this is yet another emphasis on we need some help in our quarterback room. Not necessarily help with the quarterbacks, but we need some help for the quarterbacks. And the best safety blanket is either going to be a running back or a tight end. We know what the running backs can do out of the backfield. The difficulty there is so do the other teams. So that's why this does make some sense. You have some extra tight ends. You have multiple mobile quarterbacks now because Banks Bowen, again, has 2,100 yards rushing before he went to Tulsa. So you have three athletes that clearly is an indication that Oklahoma State is going to do some innovative things offensively to cover up some of the potential deficiencies that we have. None of this, I think, is bad if it's utilized correctly. If you're going to run a two-quarterback system, then it just needs to strategically make sense because some teams have done it. We have seen it work. Maybe not so much at this level, but whenever you're trying to rebuild, sometimes you got to do some difficult things. And the athleticism of both guys, plus now Banks Bowen, it's going to give you some confidence. Just like Virginia Tech fans should have confidence in what Garret Rangel is going to bring to the Hokies, and Maealiuaki Smith could very well end up being QB2 by the end of the fall. And I don't say that lightly, but that has been some of the conversation going around in Cowboy country that Maealiuaki could find himself as QB2. Garret Rangel, he could have gone somewhere and got more NIL dollars than he was getting in Stillwater to start immediately. But he decided not to do that because, and I kind of get it, he knows he's better than Alan Bowman, right? I think all of us can agree with that one, regardless of whether you rock the orange and black or not. And he got the most snaps this spring, and he seemed to be the best at operating the entire offense. So from Garret Rangel's perspective, I've played at this level. I've had some down moments for sure, but I have years of development. I have years of experience. I have years of reading the coverages. I have developed athletically from a 4.9 40 to a 4.5 40, from 182 pounds to 212 pounds. Garret Rangel has done so much at Oklahoma State. He just never really got the pure opportunity. And when he did finally get that, he absolutely dominated BYU for a first half until he stiff-armed the turf and broke his collarbone. And that was honestly the biggest derailment for him in Oklahoma State country. So this is going to be exciting. And then, of course, Maealiuaki came in, won us a game, almost won us another game. And from a confidence perspective, I think most in Cowboy country understood that even Maealiuaki Smith was far and away better than Alan Bowman, proving that, Alan Bowman had a nice 2023 season. but it was a little bit of a mirage. The Cowboy quarterback rotation at the moment, I don't think it's a mirage. It's pure speed. It's pure athleticism. And perhaps with Banks Bowen now in the fold, this quarterback room can take shape because I don't think the battle's done. We've heard Robert Allen say that he felt like Zane Flores was going to be the best at the end of the day. Hauss Hejny has proven himself in the spring, and, he got several snaps at TCU because of that athleticism. So Hauss is going to be a weapon no matter what. Now we bring in Banks Bowen, who I think is a very adequate quarterback, and Zane Flores is being projected as likely the guy, unless Hauss Hejny does something crazy, which is possible, because Hauss Hejny is a very special individual. Speaking of being special, it's time for you to make sure that you're managing things the best way possible for you and your family. And that is going to be with Monarch Money. Ladies and gentlemen, you've got to stop checking your bank account and wondering where all your money went, because between dining out, online shopping, and just daily entertainment, it is very easy for us all to lose track, right? We've all checked the account and wondered why it's missing dollar bills. Monarch Money is here to be your personal CFO, giving you full visibility and control over your finances. Monarch Money isn't just a budgeting app. It's a complete financial command center. You can track all of your accounts, investments, and spending all in one place. So don't just simply stop spending your money, managing money. You need to start building wealth with your money. When you start using Monarch, you're going to realize how much you are spending on daily things and that you viewed as necessities, but maybe really aren't. After juggling multiple apps, you can now utilize Monarch to check all of your finances, track spending, and even plan long-term goals on just that one app. Managing money with your partner is smoother than ever. You can track shared and personal accounts, set goals, and stay on the same page without any of the stress. Take control of your finances today with Monarch Money. Use a code LOCKEDONCollege, all one word, at monarchmoney.com for 50% off your first entire year. That is monarchmoney.com, code LOCKEDONCollege, all one word, for half off your first entire year. Get your money and your future squared away today with Monarch Money, the best in the land for your future investments security. Speaking of future investments, the Cowboys have really only had one name in basketball that jumped in the portal that was a bit of a surprise, and I think that is Arturo Dean. Arturo Dean at the end of the season showed flashes of brilliance, of course, coming in. He was already number one in the country in steals, and he was one of the top 5 all-time in steals, and he was coming to continue to set records in that department. And he definitely, from a defensive perspective, did provide us quite a bit. But in the beginning of the year, it was more Khalil Brantley kind of leading the charge as a point guard, and at the latter half of the year, it kind of merged into Arturo Dean. And because of that, the emergence he had both offensively to go along with his defensive prowess, I think he gave us a lot of hope for Cowboy basketball moving forward, knowing that we had a dude, yada, yada. But for whatever reason, that did not exactly shake out. But we did dip over into the UMass country to grab a point guard replacement, and that is Jalen Curry. The last Curry that played at Oklahoma State was an absolute stud. So looking back at James on, maybe Jalen Curry can do something similar. Jalen Curry does come to us after averaging 13.3 points a game, 3.8 rebounds a game, 3.9 assists a game, 1.2 steals a game, and he started in 29 games this previous season. And, his 36% from the floor maybe could use some work. His 35% from three-point land does make you feel a little bit better. And he's a little bit undersized, but he can carve out a really nice role for Oklahoma State, I think, coming up this season. The Cowboys obviously made a little bit of a run, and having the home record was absolutely remarkable. Taking care of Gallagher Iba was the biggest thing for me, right? I don't want to beat that dead horse. But you had to have somebody like an Arturo Dean to manage the offense and also be productive. Sometimes the production wasn't always there from Arturo Dean, so perhaps Curry can kind of give us that spark that we need. If he has a little bit more development in him, this is going to be a perfect fit for Oklahoma State. And we do know that Vukanovic has decided to come back after saying that he was going to go back home overseas. A couple days later, he changed his mind and decided to come back. So there's going to be another big man presence to go with 4-star freshman Ben Ahmed. and Mekhi Ragland up from the Kansas area. And now it's not done yet because he had to go ahead and get some more. Because whenever you're looking at this Oklahoma State ball club, it's been pretty impressive, in my opinion. And then we go out and get UAB forward Christian Coleman. So Steve Lutz seemingly is the gift that keeps on giving. We brought in Kanye Clary from Mississippi State, formerly of Penn State, and he had a miraculous turnaround at Penn State, and it kind of had some crazy stuff go down, and he ended up transferring to Mississippi State, and then he got hurt at Mississippi State. So if he can go back to what he was doing at Penn State as a freshman, he's going to be absolutely massive for us. Isaiah Coleman coming over from Seton Hall was an early get that averaged 16.6 points a game, 5.3 rebounds a game. Of course, you got Anthony Roy from Green Bay that was coached up by Doug Gottlieb that came into Gallagher Iba and gave us fits. He also averaged 25.7 points a game while shooting over 43% from three-point land. Then we go get Victorious Miller from LSU, another guard who averaged just under 9 points a game, 1.2 assists a game. And he also had an injury coming in at 6'5". He's got good size, good ability to score. But we're getting a couple of these dudes that are coming off of injury. And then while we wait on the development of Mekhi Ragland, of Vukovanovich, and Ben Ahmed, we went and got Parsa Falah. Parsa Falah is a 6'9", 265-pound Oregon State Beaver who was second on their team last year and scoring at 12.8 points a game. He also averaged almost five rebounds a game. Now you bring in Christian Coleman. Christian Coleman's a 6'8" guard who averaged 11.6 points a game, 7.1 rebounds a game, and he was second on UAB's club in both of those. So, of course, Connor Dow leaving was expected. I think it's pretty awesome. He ended up at Oral Roberts. Jamiron Keller going to Louisiana, formerly Louisiana Lafayette back in the growing up days. I think that's pretty cool. Patrick Sumnick was just taking a visit or something to KU. I think that's a bit of a reach, but if he does end up at somewhere like that, that's absolutely awesome. And we don't know where Arturo Dean is going to end up, but we do know that Arturo Dean is going to have another successful run in him because Arturo Dean has a very similar game, minus the offense, of Javon Small. Javon Small, obviously going from Oklahoma State to West Virginia, is going to have the opportunity to play some NBA ball. It's a daggone crying shame that we cannot claim him the same way, right? We get the benefits of claiming Marcus Smart and Cade Cunningham and Lindy Waters III. And we need more of that in the NBA, of course. So it would be nice to have some conversations about some of these dudes making a big impact. I mean, even like a Musa Cisse. That might have been the last guy that we all thought, other than Brendan Garrison, that was potentially an NBA guy that could rock the orange and black on our behalf. But now we're into this new group of dudes, and it appears as though Steve Lutz definitely has proven he can coach. He can get guys to buy in. He can get a team to rally. He can improve throughout the course of the season, and he can seemingly recruit. I mean, the transfer portal is essentially just that. It's recruiting. So the acquisitions that he has made, I think, should get us all pretty excited about what the prospects for next year's basketball team could look like. Going to the NIT again, probably not going to look the same or be the same or feel the same if he were to go that route. But nonetheless, this is a proud, historical basketball program that hasn't really had a lot to get pumped up about. Cade Cunningham was amazing. The LeBron Nash, Marcus Smart, Michael Cobbins, Markel Brown years were absolutely incredible, but they were wasted, right? Even with Cade Cunningham. We got bounced out by Oregon State and a former Cowboy, Maurice Kalou, in round 2. That can't happen. So Steve Lutz understands where Cowboy basketball is supposed to be. And he did have suitors, right? We remember the A&M thing. But because of that, the allure that he had from a big money program like Texas A&M, it did allow us to find some new donors that were willing to chip in and help basketball become what they're supposed to be. Pretty excited about it. I think all of us know that Steve Lutz is going to be a hot commodity, but I think we also know he might be the right guy that operates in the old Eddie Sutton style. Mason Rudolph decided to not take the Tennessee Titans money because he wanted to go back to the Pittsburgh Steelers, even though the Titans said, well, we'll match whatever Pittsburgh's going to offer you. We're going to match it. So you might as well stay here. He said, no, I'm good. They went ahead and drafted Cam Ward. Yeah, I don't know. I don't know if Cam Ward is the right fit, but I do know that Mason Rudolph tried to do the right thing and going back to the Pittsburgh Steelers. And then the Steelers, right when they have DK Metcalf, right next to George Pickens, and then they go get Johnson out of Iowa, which is a very, very good running back to be complimented next to somebody like a Jalen Warren. So there was going to be some excitement in Cowboy country for watching the Steelers this year. And because the Steelers didn't get a quarterback in the draft, it almost felt like they were going to allow Mason Rudolph to kind of lead this team. Now, I do know that there's still some Aaron Rodgers conversations mixed in here. But even if Aaron Rodgers does decide to be a Pittsburgh Steeler, I don't think he's against training up and teaching Mason and giving him some helpful hints. So this went from an exciting move from Mason Rudolph. Why he made this decision, I don't know. I mean, it's admirable. If Tennessee was going to pay you more or the same as the Steelers, I mean, I don't know. But Mason wants to do what he feels is the right thing. And the right thing is to go back to the place that drafted me, that didn't exactly help me much, that didn't exactly take care of me, a fan base who ridiculed me nonstop until I was leaving. Why he would want to return to that, I do not know. But again, it's extremely admirable that he's taken this position of I have unfinished business as a Pittsburgh Steeler. So I'm still going to be elated to see him hand the ball off to Jalen Warren, whether that be in the preseason, regular season, postseason, doesn't matter. But what was exciting was if you have DK Metcalf on one side and George Pickens on the other side, it's got to be somewhat simplistic as a quarterback to know that you're going to have guys that can bail you out sometimes. You need that. And so is it still going to be DK Metcalf out there for Mason Rudolph? Absolutely. Do they still have Deontay Johnson? Possibly a very good position to be in. But y'all let me know down in the comment section, because this almost feels like if the Steelers are getting rid of George Pickens after they just brought in DK Metcalf, there's got to be a reason for it. And it almost feels like perhaps are they tanking? Are the Steelers going to tank the season and they're going to do it with Mason Rudolph at the helm? I mean, it is hard to fathom because this is a playoff team. And it might still be a playoff team even without George Pickens. But the tricky part is what they gave up here. All right. The Dallas Cowboys will also receive, on behalf of the George Pickens trade, a 2026 sixth-round pick. And then the Steelers get a 2026 third-round pick and a 2027 fifth-round pick. You're telling us that George Pickens is worth a third-rounder, a fifth-rounder, and a sixth-rounder? Like, even if that was all one team, that's still a little bit ridiculous. And I didn't see a financial number here, so I don't know what the Dallas Cowboys potentially paid to get George Pickens, but just off of the draft pieces given away, this is pretty ridiculous trade, is it not? And maybe there's some Steelers out here that will explain this to me. Maybe they'll say, well, we didn't need George Pickens because we got DK Metcalf and we've got X, Y, and Z receiver ready to go. Maybe they've got some phenomenal pieces on the defense, so it's going to be more of a defensive-oriented team. Or maybe they still plan on Aaron Rodgers leading the charge. I don't know what it is, but I woke up and I couldn't believe that was a thing. And throughout the course of the day, I wanted to make sure it was real because it didn't seem real. There's no way. I was like, there's no way the Steelers would give up George Pickens for a third and a seventh-round pick or whatever. That just makes zero sense. But evidently that is what happened. And it makes you ask the question, why would the Steelers do this? Because if you have George Pickens on one side and DK Metcalf on one side, you should be able to make Mason Rudolph a playoff winning quarterback, right? I mean, even if it was Aaron Rodgers. Aaron Rodgers, I would imagine, at this point in his career, would love 2 50-50 ball guys. So, something about it feels a little sketch. But let me know down in the comments section, for all of you out here in YouTube country, do you think the Steelers are tanking? Are they screwing Mason Rudolph yet once again? Or do they have something else up their sleeve here and they've got some better wide receivers that we really don't know about? Do they anticipate Aaron Rodgers is still going to – it just feels like that Mason Rudolph left Tennessee and left money on the table at Tennessee to come back to Pittsburgh to prove something just to get punched in the nose a couple months later with this news. Like, as a quarterback, it's got to be great throwing to those two individuals, knowing that I've got two guys on the outside. They're going to bail me out 50% of the time. To go from that to this, especially at that value, like those picks, just, they don't make any sense. George Pickens, maybe you would expect George Pickens for a second rounder and a third rounder, or a second rounder this year, a third and fifth rounder the next 2 years. I don't know. But George Pickens for a third and a fifth, and the Cowboys get an additional 6 picks. So they got a 6th pick from the Steelers, and they got George Pickens, and all the Steelers got was a 3rd round pick this year and a 5th round pick next year. That something's off here. I may have went to the school for kids that can't read good sometimes, but that don't make any sense. So perhaps somebody can explain it better to me. But until then, that's all we're going to have for this one right here. As always, you know I love you. God bless. Go Pokes. Thank you for tuning in to make this your first listen here in Locked On Oklahoma State, because you could be anywhere. Very happy you choose to be here. Do me a favor. Hit the like button if you liked it. Dislike it if you didn't. That's okay too. More importantly, though, share, comment, and subscribe. My podcast, some people out there. You're everything that makes this turn. I appreciate you. Do what you do. Hit the stars. Leave a review. All righty, y'all. We're out of here. Later, my taters.